All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to spend some time today talking about follow-up. As always, being collaborative is one of our core pillars here at Crown, and having a space in order to actually provide some opportunities to say, hey, I am really bad at this and I would like to get better at this, or hey, somebody said this and I don't know much about it, is what all of these trainings intentionally become about. So today, literally, this came up as a conversation with a couple of you on the call, actually, and some who are not, which is too bad for them. But really, that said, hey, I know I need a better follow up system. How do I do it? What do I do? How does this work? And all the fun things. So that's what we said. Okay, well, let's talk about follow up. So today, I'm going to walk you through something that I built for you, known as the follow-up engine. It is a formatted methodology that relates to different lead structures and different follow-up plans. As if it's not clear, personally, I like to actually give you something tactical to walk away with at almost every learning opportunity and training we do. And so that's what my goal is today. I do have a playbook for you, by the way, that I will give you at the end that has a little bit more details. And if we have some time, I'll sort of walk you through what that looks like as well. So I think we we all know follow-up is one of the necessary evils in this industry. We are a relationship-based industry, and without nurturing those relationships, your business will suffer. People will argue that there are multiple ways to build a real estate business, and there is. I'm not going to disagree with that statement. What I am going to say is that it is still a relationship-based business, and you have to be able to close to convert first person. Now, you can leave it in a transactional model if you want, meaning that once the transaction is done, you pump through them as quick as you can and as fast as you can, and you just hope that they come back. But you don't have a plan to kind of be that advisor for life, if you will, right? So at Crown, that's not the methodology we believe in. We believe in relationships first. We then believe in the business will come following once you continue to nurture that. Because of that methodology, we do believe that there is more than enough business for people. And that's the easy part. Building trust with people and generating leads is a different topic of conversation. Today, it's really about the structure and the plan that goes into follow-ups and setting up a structure in place in order to be able to move forward. And so, what does that look like? This is what precipitated all of this. I'm bad at follow-up, is what I was told by a couple of people. And Jay hiding in his hands is not any indication that he may agree with that statement. But if you self-identify with this, recognize that it's okay. I'm bad at it too, in full transparency, which is why I need a system in place in order to help me with it. It's also why I utilize our transaction coordination services here at Crown, because sometimes I'm not very good with those detailed components. And so I make sure that I have an opportunity to do so. So there are two primary things that come into it, though, when you say I'm bad at follow-up. The first thing is that it's a mindset problem, right? It's not that you're bad at it, right? People seem to think that if I keep reaching out, I'm bugging them and I'm irritating them. I was literally told to F off in a follow-up sequence yesterday, to which I politely replied to the guy like, hey, no problem. So sorry you're not enjoying the content or whatever else. And then his reply to me after I said, I will unsubscribe you, he goes, get a real job. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. Not everybody's going to like you. So the reality is, yes, you might actually be bugging somebody, but the good news is they will tell you, and then that you have the opportunity to remove them. All of your sequencing will have some form of an unsubscribe feature or an unfollow feature or whatever that would look like. So, but this is a big fear that stops a lot of people. So what do? We say, well, I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to be an irritant. So I'm just going to send one message. Send one. If they want to re-engage, that's great. That's on them. But then I'm just going to stop and I'm going to respect their space, and I'll just be here and they'll know about me when they're ready to transact in real estate. So like I did my job, right? That's one thing. The reality is that it's actually the other thing, or I should say, is that it's a systems problem, right? There's no way I can keep up with all of them. I have 800, 900 leads stuck in my database that I don't know what to do with, and we're paralyzed by this fear of the volume of leads that you generate. Which, what a great problem, by the way, to have. I know that my lead sourcing, when I was in full production anyway, I was doing a lot of realtor.com buys because I converted those really, really well. And it was a numbers game, right? You had to buy more to close more, but I did pretty well with realtor.com. My Facebook organic marketing was actually working really well in that space as well, where I was generating about 5 to 10 leads a month. So like I wouldn't say I had a massive amount of volume, but I had enough to where I was like, oh, I need to build something for this, right? So the part of the paralyzation in that though is to say like you feel as though without you can't keep up with them. I can't make that many calls today. I can't send that many customized emails today because there's no system. And without the system in place, we tend to avoid it, right? It's like, well, now I'm just going to forget about it because it's overwhelming and I don't know where to start and I can't possibly imagine all this thing. And while that's fine, today we're going to work on trying to fix both of those problems. Okay. So today, like I want to remind you, this is really about is this about structure? Like, so you're going to have homework if you actually want to take the foundations of what we're going to talk about. You are going to have to go do some work, right? And now, but while we talk about that, one thing I want to mention to you, and I mentioned this in one of my this week's at Crown, talking about the market right now being a little goofy, right? You look at Paige, not wrong vendor, Faith on our team here. She just released, the rankings for last month. And I was looking at them yesterday and I was talking to another agent and they said, I feel like I shouldn't be that far up the list where I only have like 2 million in volume close. And I was like, well, the reality is besides Neil, who's absolutely crushing it. So Neil, if you watch this, 10 million closed already is unbelievable, dude. Like, well done. But the other side of it is that the rest of us humans in the team, we're pretty on pace with the market right now because the market's a little weird, right? So like if you're sitting at about 2 million closed right now, that'd be sitting at like 2 million closed. I would say like, I don't know, April-ish in a normal year. Like it's a really delayed season. I've been telling people as I've been talking to friends around the country, I say, our season started late almost because I think our trees started late. And I don't know why it took forever to the trees to bud and do their things, but that's kind of where we started in this phase. So it's just a little bit of a delayed market. So that's part of the benefit in looking at that moving forward, which is really cool. So today we're going to talk about fixing some of these things and see how we do. So all right. So in a short time frame, less than an hour, we're going to do number one. We're going to talk about reframing, a little bit of the perspective here in why you should be following up. Okay. So it's not pestering. And I'm going to share a little bit through the story brand processing just to kind of re-engage your brain a little bit. I want to talk to you about the physics of it, right? So what the data actually says about speed and persistence and following up. Yes, you do need both. You need speed by systems and persistence by perseverance. So you need both of those things in order to actually convert. Sources. We need to actually look at different types of lead sources. How many? Each one of those sources is going to be a different animal and will require something different to nourish them. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the system. What's the cadence? What's the segments? What's some wording? And that's part of the playbook I'm going to give you at the end of the training here. That's a benefit, by the way, for you showing up to the training live, is because I don't post the playbooks anywhere else. Only the people who show up in the room actually get the physical playbook. So I will get that to you here. So let's talk a little bit about the reframe. So before you touch a script, you need permission to follow up, right? So, and here's a little bit about what that looks like. So the story brand methodology, if you've ever read, this book, is that there's this concept of the hero and the guide. And you'll hear us talk about this throughout Crown. It's part of our marketing tenacity. It's just part of what we believe as well in the sales cycle. Your lead is the hero, the person that clicked the button, filled out the form, engaged with an ad, whoever did something, that is the hero of the story that they are creating. It's a very self-serving situation, but it helps reframe your mind a little bit because you are the guide. There is a reason they engaged, clicked on something, filled out a form, whatever the walk through the front door of the office, whatever it would be, there is a reason that they did that, and you have the information of which they were seeking. Right? One of my favorite phrases is when we call somebody like, hey, thanks for taking the time. And it's like, no, you don't have to thank them. You have the information that they want. They should be thanking you for taking the time, right? So like it's this switch in narrative to understand that I actually have the goods, right? I can guide you to wherever you're trying to get to, right? So let's talk a little bit about the hero. So the client or the lead, right? They show up, they want to move in some capacity. Oftentimes they're going to feel overwhelmed and unsure, and they're going to be afraid of getting it wrong, right? I can think of lots of stories simply from somebody who called and said, hey, I want to sell this thing to my neighbor. And because we've trained people to ask the right questions It can easily turn into a facilitation deal. It can easily turn into a one-sided listing agreement. It can easily turn into a limited services agreement. So there's lots of different ways just by asking the right questions that you can point out the fact that while some people are able to do this by themselves without us as a professional, that's totally fine as the guide. Most humans are going to end up getting it wrong. But the good news is the client is coming to you as the hero of the story. You, on the other side, you get to be the guide to this situation. You get to show empathy. You get to bring authority. You get to have your hands kind of over the plan. Quarterback in the situation is a phrase I've heard some people use. And you get to stay in the game until the hero wins. That's probably one of my personal favorite parts of this industry is that you get the opportunity. The client gets to decide when they tap out, right? Now, sometimes, yes, we fire clients because they're terrible, and I get that. Right? But at the end of the day, overall, we still get to stay in the game and continue to play until the hero or our client actually finds a win, which I think is great. So in every great story, it's important to remember the guide never abandons the hero halfway. I want you to think of any awesome story that you had. I've never seen Robin abandon Batman and never come back to his aid towards the end of the story, right? If I understood Harry Potter as well as my daughter does, because she's all over, she's on her third cycle through all 8 books, by the way. It's amazing. And if I knew that story better, I promise you the hero does or is not abandoned by the guide somewhere through that story, right? Like it just doesn't happen. Any of our good stories are in there. Yoda doesn't abandon Luke, right? Like there's all these references that we could come up with. So it's important to know that following up is not pestering the hero of the story. You're just simply refusing to disappear on them. Right. One of my key phrases that I used in follow up was always like, I want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball. That's how I would with that client who would never engage and never do the thing. It was always framed as, hey, Jay, Brandon here. I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball. Did I miss something? We haven't connected recently. Did I do something, in that space? And it would always garner a response because never once did I have somebody, well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't be as hyperbolic as people are teaching me. The reality is I don't recall a time when somebody said, yeah, you dropped it. I'm sure I did. But then I probably didn't text them that message. Otherwise I wouldn't be dropping it. So the people I did text would get a message or I'd call them and they would be great. And they would understand that, oh, no, it wasn't you. We had a change or this came up or that or this, that. And like, okay, that's fantastic. Right. So your dedication to not disappearing on them is serving them as a good guide. Each touch that you do in your follow-up segments should move them and the hero of the story one step closer. It's not just a check-in, right? We always like to talk about, again, one of our core tenets, is deposits before withdrawals, right? And we want to make sure that we're making those deposits into our clients, just like we want to make sure we're making deposits into you as our agents and as our clients and the brokerage. Like we want to make deposits into those relationships before we start asking for withdrawals from those relationships. And the same is true here in follow-up. You want to make sure that you're helping move them forward in their journey, not just simply saying, hey, I'm just checking in. Have a point to the call, right? Like try to bring some clarity to that. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The good news is people are actively looking for a guide. The new one we hear all the time is AI, right? AI can serve as a guide into almost any type of process that you're looking for. And I love AI. I use it on a daily basis. I have 2 systems of it, running in the background right now. So, but everybody's actively looking for a guide and you have the unique ability to know our markets better than anybody else, right? So what's fun is 88% of buyers purchase through an agent, the most used, most trusted resource ahead of online listings and anything else. So NAR is still telling us that 88% of people, of buyers anyway, are choosing to work with an agent because of the expertise and the knowledge. So the chances that you're going to get an interaction from somebody online in that 12% that doesn't want you is there. It's about a 12% chance. However, the other 88% chance is going to tell you that these people are engaged and are interested in getting to you, which is great. Now, buyers, agents, the rate of an agent's response, 95% of buyers rate an agent's responsiveness as very important, right? On a scale of 1 to 5, very important when choosing who to work with. This is always that speed to lead used to be the phrase we would often say. It still holds true, unfortunately. Any of those lead components, your responsiveness is what needs to be there. And I would say that even hey, I'm out of office, or hey, this isn't, I'm in showings or something like that, I will get back to you, is still a response that warrants your ability to be strong in that space. And the last thing here, 9 in 10 agents would use their agent again. Would, right? We know this. NAR studies tell us 90% of people will use you again, but they don't hear from you after the closing. They kind of forget about you because you are no longer a guide to their current story. You've already facilitated them, right? So now you almost need to think about the client's story on the buy side has changed. They changed from searching to finding to securing to moving into a house to how do I maintain? How do I grow equity? How do I build relationships? Like it's a different nurturing process on the other end of that. And those are different touch points that you could become the guide to. And then you flip back to, agent versus, home equity builder or wealth builder advisor. Like there's different roads there that you can take in your business, which is pretty fun. So the button down phrase, right? The market doesn't see persistent, helpful contracts as annoying. It sees it as competence. Okay. So when you look at, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be a pest. That's fine. But the data tells us it's not, it's competence. The more you reach out, the more you create connections, the more you build trust, like all of that is done as the guide because the data tells us the heroes want that. It's seen as competence in the market space. It's not seen as annoying. And if somebody is annoyed by it, I promise you they will let you know. And I know you do the same thing when you pick up the phone and they're like, "Oh, hey, is this Brandon?" And then I'm like, "Yeah." Or you hear the click, right? Because the auto attendant picked up and is quickly routing you to a call center. You know the tricks and everything to which you're going to be annoyed with, and you'll tell the person, and that'll be fine. And then you can just simply say, "Hey, great, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't drop the ball on a relationship and a request that you had. I'll take you off to the sequencing," right? And you can move them out of whatever current plan sequence you have them in, and you can drop them into a different pond, a different label, completely delete them, whatever you need to do at that time. But again, even doing that is only helping you rid yourself of another contact that you don't have to follow up with, right? So it's literally a win-win for you. It either opens the door to a path to a conversation, to competency, to a transaction, to a payday, to another relationship and another loudmouth person, hopefully singing your praises about how great you are, or you pull somebody out of your database that you don't have to worry about calling again, marketing to, or doing anything else. To me, there's literally no way that it loses when you are trying to prove your competency in the market space. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense so far? Okay, appreciate you, Jay. Thank you. One response, Christine looked like she was frozen drinking her coffee, and Ashley took a phone call in the middle of it. Nobody else I can see. So there you go. Okay, let's talk about the physics. Obey the two laws, break either one, and the lead is gone. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through two lies. Here's the deal. Leads traditionally happen in the first 5 minutes, right? You will notice our round robins and stuff, often depending upon the lead source, are a pretty short window for you to respond to because the first 5 minutes almost always decides the transactional deal. 100% more likely to connect with you when you respond in 5 minutes versus 30. I put all the sources at the bottom of the slides just so you know I'm not making stuff up here, which I could, but there's a lot of data on call centers. There's a reason there are so many call centers out there. So a contact is 100% more likely to connect with you if you respond in 5 minutes versus 30, right? And remember, it's not you pestering them. They raised their hand. I understand sometimes they did not raise their hand asking for you to call them, and they will tell you, like the guy who told me to F off and get a real job. However, there is still the sentiment that you have knowledge and value in a market space that is part of the American dream. You are positioned in a unique space to bring a lot of value to consumers, okay? 78% of buyers will go with the first agent who responds to them because they're dumb and they don't know what they're looking for. They just think they want somebody to open the door, which is really funny because we barely even open doors anymore because most people leave them unlocked. But nevertheless, 78% of consumers believe that they will go with the first agent who contacts them. So you have a 5-minute window in order to increase your connection by 100%. And you know that you have a 78% chance of winning them if you are the first person to contact them. That's a pretty decent stat. The average agent's actual response time to a new lead is 15 hours. That blows my mind. The average agent's actual response time to a new lead is 15 hours. You wonder why Zillow Premier. So you can't knock Zillow for having a really good business model when their whole thing is, hey, we're going to be the go-to source for finding homes in the U.S. and subsidiary outlying territories. However, They have an incredible market and an incredible issue that they solve themselves with Zillow Premier, right? Where all of a sudden now their inside sales agents would take the call because of all of these stats, and then they would only hand them over to you if you picked up your phone and could do a live transfer to an agent, right? There's a reason that works and why Zillow saw an incredible increase. They saw a problem, they created a bunch of leads, and then they gave them away, but then they were losing the opportunity to close deals. So they created a different solution to fix that, which was their Premier scene. So these are the kind of stats that kind of should shock you a little bit, right? So remember, law one is based upon speed because of these factors, okay? Portals send the same leads to several agents at once. Speed isn't customer service, right? Speed is just the contact. It's how you win the lead before anyone else calls. Speed is not part of your customer service journey. It's not part of the value proposition you give. It's just how you win the lead before anybody else gets it. That's it. That's the opportunity inside the gap there. That's the big one. So speed gets you in, persistence gets you paid. 80% of sales need 5+ follow-up touches in order to close. Okay. 44% of agents quit after just one follow-up. One no, almost half of the people will give up. The math is brutal. That's a fun word. Brutal and beautiful. But the deal is sitting at touchpoint number 5. That's where the magic really begins to happen, because here's how it has. Leads convert at 6+ times when you have 70% or those that get fewer. So you have an opportunity to win the leads as you go here, right? 80% of sales need at least 5 follow-ups, 5 touch points in order to actually build the relationship to help move them forward, at least 5. Previous sales data used to say 8. We've come down, according to the National Sales Executive Association, we've come down to 5 due to online demand, AI research, and newer generations understanding they do a lot more research before they even pick up the phone, which is pretty cool. Now, so we have a large opportunity, but 44% of the agents are going to quit after one follow-up, right? So you can see that gap is massive, and that chasm is just literally ripe for the picking. You just have to have the systems in place in order to do it. If anybody's got questions at any point in time, like, feel free to ask. I'm just, going to go through my deck and have a good time. I don't know if you can see that one right there, by the way. I probably should turn my share window on. Anyway. Normally, I like to have the window that shows me where I am on the screen so I can understand it better. I'm also really dark today due to the lighting, but we're doing fine. Okay. So without one of these, it leaves the other on the table. So you have to have both, right? You have to have speed and persistence in order to actually get there. So speed alone, that connection without conversion. You answer fast, you can qualify them, but then you never call again. That's what 44% of people do. You get connected and you lost the deal to someone else who stayed in touch. My favorite thing, which stings every single time it happens, yes, it happens to me because I'm not perfect, is you get the call or you drive past a friend's house and there's a different sign in the yard. And you're like, what the fuck is this all about? Like, excuse me. And then you find a way to call and be like, oh, hey, I'm so excited you're going to list your house. Tell me what's going on. And you try to play it really cool, but inside you're dying because you realize you failed to maintain top of mind for that individual, right? The ones that you did well with, by the way, are the ones that are going to pick up the phone and they're going to say, hey, Brandon, this is going on right now. This just happened to me. I have some neighbors going through a divorce, and she picked up the phone. She called me and she said, hey, we're going to bring a different agent through, just so you know, like, we need to get a valuation of the house, and we just think you're too close to both of us that we just feel we need a third party. Totally fine, right? Absolutely. Let me recommend somebody good so you don't get some bogus number that we can do. And I was able to still give them value, even though it wasn't me that they wanted contracted. And I was like, that's totally fine. That's an example of how you know you did it right and you maintained the relationship. I also have those situations where I just drove past a past client's house and there was a different agent sign in the yard. Never called me, never talked to me. Thankfully, it's overlisted. And so I got to call him and be like, hey, congrats. I know he got married. He was single when he bought this townhome. Married, probably looking to have a family, doesn't want to live in a townhome. Anyway, and I felt dumb because I didn't do my job there. But nevertheless, so speed to that connection is going to matter. Sorry, let me get back on track here. And then the persistence piece, that follow-up. You're going to follow up faithfully, just not hours late. Okay. If you're the 4th, 5th agent that's called them, now they're going to get irritated because they already found a guide to the story and to the problem they're trying to solve, right? You want to be the first one, not the last one. So that speed does matter. Diligence and all the things show up. Effort without the appointment is part of that persistence piece. So remember, the compounding advantage to this whole issue, this compounding advantage, speed plus persistence. You need to be in a space to be first to respond and then present through 6 to 12 intentional touches. That's kind of the magic marker we're learning. It's a wide range, I understand. So I kind of say, what are your 12 intentional touches when building out a campaign to basically qualify them from one stage to the next stage? That's my recommendation moving forward. 12 intentional touches. And what does that do? And so, just so you know, of all the top producers out there that we've coached in and outside of our organization, along with Global Banker and different market shares that I have relations in, it's usually 6 to 12 seems to be the magical number. Again, that's per phase of the journey, though, right? So, like, it's a little bit different, right? So, warm to hot to cold to sold to transactional, like it different. However you identify those phases is going to be part of that issue. So let's talk about the sources. You don't get the ability, and I'm so sorry, this does take effort. You don't get the ability to run one follow-up plan for every lead. A Zillow inquiry is going to be very, very different than somebody who walks through the front door of an office, and vice versa. Somebody you meet at an open house is going to be very different than somebody who responds to an ad on Facebook. Like, there's just a very different approach and how you need to manage those. And now this is where your business becomes part of that core competency of what you need to work on. So 4 sources, here's what I'm going to tell you. 4 sources, 4 temperatures, and 4 different playbooks. 4, 4, 4. Okay. Well, Brandon, what do you mean? So here are 4 that I think are the easy hitters. You can augment them as you wish. Okay. And you don't need, there are more than 4. I'm telling you to focus on 4 for your business. And this is part of the business planning, right? And you get to decide where you're going to spend your money and your effort. Brandon and all of Crown is going to tell you that your sphere and your referrals is probably one of your biggest returns on your investment. Maintaining your sphere of influence has consistently returned the whole thing. It's also why Brandon decided to write this book over here, which is all about your sphere of influence mastery. And it's a whole guide on how to do that because I believe it's important. If you want a copy, come tell me and I will give you one because I love you. The other one I want you to consider, a lot of people will do is portal leads. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I told you when I was in full production, this is about 40% of my business. But I was really good at getting to my phone, and I was really good at just giving them what they needed. They wanted to get into a house. I was going to go show them to them. I was not going to put anything in their way from getting them what they wanted because I wanted to build that trust, but I figured I'll do it at the door, in the follow-up that leads to the appointment, wherever it is. But if they wanted to see a house, I was going. I wasn't going to vet them or do anything else. That's as I was building my business. Would I do it differently now? Absolutely. Nevertheless, these are cold and fast, right? You're just going. Speed is everything inside of this space, right? You don't know their intent. There's usually a higher volume that comes with it. And the downside is that's shared with your enemies. Open houses, because they are low cost. I'm still a little bitter about the fact that I've never sold a property from an open house. Okay. I think it's something to do with my direct personality, and it doesn't do well in an open house. So Jay held one for me this past week, and he had five different people walk through, 5 different groups of people walk through. I'm like, that freaking sucks. And I really hope he sells it, just so that's a story that I can use later about how I gave away an open house that sold the property. So that would be really fun. And then, of course, you have your web ads and your IDX stuff. The majority of us, whether you are intentionally doing it or not, you have the ability to get website, Google ads, IDX stuff, because the brokerage is running them for you as well. Okay, so like we are running our own set of ads to generate leads for you as part of our team. Some of you are doing your own, some of you are augmenting. Like, there's all good reasons for this. The good thing here is that a lot of these are cold leads, but they're more in a nurture phase. They're more early on in the process, trying to understand things, which is where we're trying to meet them and become their guide early on in the journey in order to get them into that place. So these would be like the 4 different sources, right? So the follow-up plan is going to change with the temperature. Hot leads need speed, cold leads needs patience and proof of concept and trust building. So depending upon where they are, your intervals of your 6 to 12 connections are going to change, right? They're going to change based upon the lead sourcing, because that's just part of the process. Think about, if you really want to understand it, think about yourself on the other side of your prospecting plan and your follow-up plan, and then decide if that's the right thing. But think about it like, well, if I just came to an open house, what would that follow-up plan be? How irritated would I be if I heard from that agent every single day until I gave them a yes or no that they wanted to buy this house? Or is it more of a soft cadence? Next day we send a thank you. 3 days later, we do a follow-up. 1 week after that, we do another email, or whatever that would look like, a much more casual cadence, okay? Hot leads need speed, cold leads need patience and proof of concept. So How many sources do you need inside of that space? I'm just showing you 4, right? The idea here is enough so that not a single one can sink you. That's the bottom line, okay? If one of the pegs of your revenue streams, okay, so this is business planning. If one of the streams of your business dropped out, how would you do today, right? So let's just take your biggest one, which I hope is sphere of influence, okay? That's a corner pillar of your business that you should be nurturing. And I tell you that because if it's not clear, Brandon believes in that, okay? But if you start doing portal ads, right, or you start doing open houses or whatever else, I'll just say open houses last year accounted for 20% of your business. Okay, and that's going to be another lead source that you're going to work this year because it was 20%. It just takes time; it doesn't take any dimes, and off you go. Right. Well, if you pulled that 20% out because it doesn't work because COVID shows up and you can't do open houses anymore, like what would that do to your business model? And can you still survive financially until you can replace that line of business? Okay, the same thing is true, inside of the realtor association, right? You guys saw the email notification that we raised dues. As a member on the finance committee, I said, hey, this is something important we need to do in order to start investing in non-dues revenue, right? Like the association has to find other revenue streams if we start losing members, which is the primary source of revenue for the association. Like you got to look at that and decide, well, what does that look like and how do we do that? Same thing holds true here. Okay. I don't want to harp on that. So here's what I recommend. I said 4, right? Because it's right in the middle. 3 to 5 active sources. We used to say 6, but what I have found through coaching this year in 2026, whatever it is now, I now say 3 to 5. And the reason I say that is because 6, I used to say I want you to have 6 to 8, but the bottom line is it just got too many. It became through coaching and stuff, people I think were getting unfocused. Their money was being diverted too much, and now I'm like, all right, let's hone this in a little bit more and get really strong. So let's do 3 to 5, right? A 3-legged stool can be a little tipsy when you pull one, which is why I like 4, because you can still lean one way and still be upright on a 4-legged stool. Okay, on a 5-legged stool, you pull one, and I usually don't even feel the difference. I don't know if you've sat on a 5-legged stool. It's kind of entertaining. But that's why 2 is too fragile because you pull one and you're gone, right? Welcome to the part-time agent status, which is not what we're striving for, okay? 6 is unfocused. 3 to 5 gives you the stability without spreading you too thin. No source of your revenue should be over 40% of your pipeline, okay? So, and the reason I say this is because if you lose that one thing, now your whole business is essentially built on that one thing. It's fine in seasons. Like I'll say that, like in seasons, you heavily invest in something to rebuild another part of your business. We do that all the time. Okay. So I'm not saying that's bad, but a continual investment in one revenue stream, or one revenue source, I should say, that's over 40% is something you want to start looking at because it's an imbalanced business model, right? And that's one of the things we talk about around business planning time too, right? It's like, where are you at and what are you doing? So when I one year, I think realtor.com and Zillow.com accounted for like 60% of my business when I was early on. And I was just not okay paying that much money. The good news is what that did though, is it gave me a whole bunch of past clients and sphere of influence people to build from, which is what eventually kind of culminated in the rest of my business at that time. So, but think about it. If you build it on a third-party product too, like I did, like one price hike could kill you on that revenue stream, right? On that source. So it's trying to make it an issue. Plus, leaning into another vendor like Zillow as an example. Well, if they change their algorithm on how I appeared on their screen, that's a problem now, right? So that's where we want to try to make sure, like, let's try to scale it back and make sure that your business is well balanced, okay? And at the end of the day, we want you to anchor it on relationships because that's the one thing nobody can really take away from you, which is great. You get to decide who's in that foundation. You've owned it. You've earned the trust. It's great. For me, like I said, paid leads accelerated it, but they didn't carry me. And I do think I did that right as a good balance to get there. And so there's a swing in the pendulum. You just want to watch through that. Real quick, does this resonate? Like, does this make sense? Or are you like, no, Brandon, that's dumb?
The concept is don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Same thing. Yeah.
So yes, it makes sense. And yes, I like that 6 is on focus because yes, absolutely. Your head's going.
Yep, it's too many. So for those of you who did coaching with me and we set 6 last year, we should probably reevaluate. So, and I'm guessing you probably are only focusing on 3 to 5 because one of them fell off the wagon anyway. Did for me, so I get it. All right. So past clients and sphere, the gap that nobody wants to work. 66% of sellers find their agents through a referral or past relationship. This again is one of those largest pillars, and the great thing is nobody can take it from you. That's one of the reasons we love it. It's one of the reasons I love people who create their own email list, right? Like once people get on your email list, can they opt out? Absolutely, but nobody can take it from you. It's yours. Okay. 43% of buyers were referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative. Okay, because they know somebody, which really came from your sphere, right? We call those bird dogs, and we treat our bird dogs really, really well, by the way. Somebody walks a client over to you, or they call you and make the introduction. Like those are the people you want to take out for dinner and say thank you and like build that relationship with, because the stronger you are, the better those bird dogs bring you, which is pretty fun. So of top producers, 60 to 80% of their business usually comes from referral and repeat clients. Again, this is that market space that you could own without a lot of monetary investment. It is relational investment, don't get me wrong, but once you build that relationship and that foundation, it's nurturing those people, right? It's creating that relationship. Like I know Keegan's on the call. She's paying attention. I see her. Hi. Yep. She waved at me across the hall. Anyway, like I know she did a really cool, and Keegan, I might butcher this. I'm sorry. I did an event here at the office around like flower arranging, right? And she had somebody come in and take photos, and I saw the reels that were created, and it was like that's a really cool way to create and nurture those relationships inside that sphere of influence. What I don't know is if anything came from it yet. Is she going to come on camera? Maybe. You just got to call people out and then they come on. Tom, I'm calling you next. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Tell us about that, Keegan, though. What am I missing?
It did. It did. I had some leads that I invited that I had already touched base with. Like I didn't invite anyone who like hadn't responded to me or called me back or anything like that. But I invited the ones that I actually was in contact with. And I had 2 of them show up. Mind you, I think I had 18 people total. So 2 of them were complete strangers. They walked in, I didn't even know their name because I was like, I knew they RSVP'd, but I was like, there's gonna be 2 people that I've never actually met in person. So it did work. She's going to buy, her son's going to buy, and her daughter's also going to buy. So yeah, at some point in the next 2 years. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is a really great example of like how do you create and nurture that sphere, right? And what's cool about it, and I appreciate the add on there, Keegan, is that you invited people who you didn't necessarily even know, right? Like you create a space that makes people feel safe in there, right? And I know like when we were giving away a ton of pies back in the day around Thanksgiving and stuff, like that was always part of the fun too, is you would just throw it out there on Facebook, who wants a free pie? And it would always turn into something, which is really fun. So anyway, the repeat business gap. So about 9 in 10 clients say that they would use you again, right? According to NAR research, right? But only 1 in 5 actually do, 20% actually do. So why the average agent touches past clients once a year? Oh boy, that gap is completely free. And it's completely warm. They almost probably already like you. They already know you, and they hopefully already trust you. And if they don't, trust me, they're not going to be somebody at that closing table if there's somebody you'd want to work with again. Like I can still think of my most ideal client I ever worked with, and they were just my absolute favorite people. So there is a space inside of there, but that repeat business gap is real, and it's a big deal, and that's where this comes into play. And we talk about all those fun things. So let's talk a little bit about the system and how we want to dive through this thing. Okay, so the engine in 3 gears, if you will. So we've talked about, we're reframing ourselves as the guide to the problem. We've talked then about the data to back up the fact of what some of the actions we need to take. We've talked about a little bit of the sourcing, and now we're going to talk about the actual system, right? Which I think is kind of the bulk of what a lot of you had asked me about in this space. So what does that look like? Okay, so segment 1. Every lead inside of your system needs to be tagged by the source, and I like temperature. Some people like grades, and that's totally fine. They mean the same thing. You can come up with your own animal coding system for all I care. You could use the Chinese, calendar if you really feel like it. It doesn't really matter. The point is, you need to be able to quickly look at people in your database and say, where did they come from, and are they an A client, which means they're going to move in less than 90 days. B means 3 to 6 months, or whatever their transaction cycle is. Hot, warm, nurture, long term. Whatever that would look like for you. And the good thing is like you get to decide what that looks like. If you want help, please reach out and we will help build something. Obviously I have a baseline recommendation, but again, it's unique to your business and what you need. So that's where you really got to decide that. The tagging thing is you can keep it really, really simple. And you could just basically, based upon your business plan, if you have 3 to 5 sources, those are the 3 to 5 tags that you care about this year. Maybe you want to add some of the stock, open house, letters, whatever that would look like, in order to get those, because that's going to be how we calculate your return on that investment into that space in that next year. The hot, warm, and long term, so kind of the temperature or the grading system, is really just to help you prioritize who to talk to first when those buckets, when those tags and those sources get overwhelming. Right? It's kind of like churning butter. Anybody ever manually churn butter, by the way? Or ice cream? You have to manually do it, right? No, Katie's giving me a face. Anyway.
Butter? Why would you go with butter? Ice cream makes so much more sense. Anyway.
Okay. Ice cream. Anyway, it's churned butter. I don't know. I'm just going to do the thing here. Anyway, okay. So as you work through it, right, eventually the cream and the butter separates, right? And you get some of these other components. That's the whole reason you want to not only have a tag for the source of where somebody comes from, but then a grading system or a temperature, so that you can quickly take, okay, well, if I'm in my open house leads, well, who are my hot leads, right? And we're going to filter those out, and those are the people we contact and we prioritize within that lead source. So that's why the two matter, because it allows us to filter it. The cadence. So this is where a lot of people get stuck. Okay. Oh, I should go back. So if you're using Back at You, this would be a tag and route on entry. So your lead source, you have the ability to set up, you can tag leads as they come into your Back at You CRM, if that's what you're using. If you're going to use Moxie, the same thing. If you're going to use Go High Level, it's the same thing. Like every single CRM that's worth anything, HubSpot has the ability for you to tag and route leads. Okay, so that's a baseline piece. The cadence. So what are you going to do is the pre-built sequence of touches. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. This is, you going into physically picking up the phone, texting people, emailing them, stopping by. Social space is a huge one for you to build trust and rapport with, right? And you can space these by temperature so nothing falls through. Okay. So you can have an open house hot follow-up program that's got 6 to 12 touch points in it. You could have an open house warm follow-up program that has 6 to 12 touch points in it. And the spacing, remember, as we talked about, the warmth or the temperature of the lead is going to determine the gaps between those touches, right? That's how we're going to compress and contract. So you can even take the same sequence if you like, and you can just create more time between hot and warm. And then between warm and cold is even more space. Right? So that's how you can really simply do it without having to rewrite everything. Then you're going to learn over time as that sequence kicks off, you'll watch the return and you'll go, man, my open rate drops off after this email. I'm going to reword this email. Then I'm going to take that. I'm going to go to Remy and I'm going to build out whatever that looks like. Right? So that's going to be an example there. And then lastly, the words. The words of your context matters too. So we don't, just like surgeons typically don't like to practice on patients in the room, I don't really think you should practice on your clients on the phone, right? Source them, read them, think of them, prep them, scrub them, like do all the things you got to do in order to actually get there. Each touch needs to carry purpose and the right phrasing. The great news is you have Remy, I like the story brand and exactly what to say frameworks. I like to merge those two together, which is what you hear me say, and I'll share some of those phrasings with you in order to get there. And I have some scripts in the playbook that I'll give to those of you on the call today, right? So like that's an example of something that you can kind of work through. So the engine, right, the actual follow-up plan, as we call them, is built in these 3 things. This making sense so far? Okay, sounds good. So magic words that are going to lower some resistance. Okay, so there's a couple and you'll get more inside the workbook, right? You can say, and again, we've shared these before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. I'm not sure if it's right for you, but maybe this property on County Road 10 is the right one that we should take a look at. I'm not sure if it's right for you, but so this removes the pressure before you create a suggestion, because I know all of you well enough to say that the client should look at this property or consider this price, but they're just stuck in their own way, right? It's so far left from what they think is right, but it's exactly what they want, right? One of my favorites is it's the wrong community, right? Like that's a big one, because some odd reason there's a huge difference between Sabika and Managa, right? Like I don't really know how that exists, but it does, right? So like sometimes you got to say, but this is the right house, and I know it's an extra 10-minute drive, but this is the right house, right? So I'm not sure if it's right for you, but maybe we should go take a look. That's an example of one. Most people in your situation, what this does is it normalizes the next steps. And if you can identify some social proof with it, it's a great way to do it. This one is primarily in the space right now where we talk about people who are coming in and they're looking for valuations on lake homes right now, right? Because the neighbor wants to sell, or they got their cousin twice removed that wants to buy the family lake cabin or whatever else, right? And they're looking for valuation, and they're not really interested in anything else. These are both phrases that you can use to help drive that. Just out of curiosity, this one is one that Katie has perfected, because I hear her use this one a lot, but it reopens with a quiet lead without the confrontation, right? Brandon's really has no issue with confrontation. Sometimes it's too much for some people, so I try to rein it in a little bit, right? And so it's just a simple rephrasing. So it's, just out of curiosity, can you help me understand why you made that dumb decision, right? Maybe not exactly like that, but you get the point, right? How would you feel if an opening phrase that gets them picturing the win and not the friction, right? Helping them understand, what is it like to not have all 4 bedrooms on one level for the first 3 to 5 years? What does that look like? Just imagine, this is one that I absolutely love, right? Moving them into the home before they own it, moving them to their goal and destination. This is what I always use on price reductions, because I like people get in their way and they're stuck on it. I'm like, well, just imagine you've moved to Florida, grandkids are coming down, you bought the place, you got the pool, everybody's down having a grand old time. Are you really going to miss that $10,000 that I'm asking for in this price reduction right now if that's where you were? Well, no, I wouldn't miss it. Okay, then what are we talking about, right? Like this is one of my favorite ones. What do you know about opens a value touch without lecturing? So it's basically a way for you to showcase your proof and your competency without lecturing at people. So what do you know about open houses? What do you know about selling a home in the great state of Minnesota? What do you know about selling a home in North Dakota? Like, what are some of these spaces and places that you can actually get people to open up to? And it provides an opportunity for them to share. Well, I don't know that much. Cool, I know a ton. Can I share a little bit? And then now you go. A lot of these questions frame it as you are the guide again, and it makes it easy to say yes, right? It makes it easy to say yes to it. I got a bunch of full scripts in the playbook I'll get to you here. So how hard to push depends on how warm they are. So here's a couple of ideas. So if somebody is hot, right, in a temperature gauge, here's a real quick thing. Under 5 minutes, you got to get to them, right? The early cadence, you should have 7 to 12 touches the first 14 days. Then, based upon what they do, drop to a weekly or monthly, right? Either they're going to engage, right? And again, we talk 6 to 12 touches before you reassess their temperature, and then you're going to drop them down to a different cadence, right? And then I call it a warming pond. That's what I always called it, was a warming pond. That's my people who I don't have a grade, but I want to stay in touch with. They get the monthly newsletter. They would get a random call or something. It would just kind of fill the gap in the void. Somebody shows up and they get warm. In the warm status, your first response is going to be the same day. Hey, thanks for coming to that open house this afternoon. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know and I can send disclosures over if there's any interest, right? Real simple, no ask, just looking to deposit. 5 to 7 touches over 30 days. It's a little bit more spread out. And then if they haven't engaged or moved to a different status, then you're just going to go to a monthly cadence, kind of in that nurture space. Cold, lead pops in, something random from a farm that you're doing geo-mapping or geofencing on with letters or whatever else. Great, hit them within 24 to 48 hours. Value first, right? About every 2 to 3 weeks, just a real gentle cadence with them, and then put them in a long-term nurture campaign. Sphere and path clients, right? These are nice and easy because they're already warm. And then there's that 36 touch for life plan, right? That basically goes on cadence. So what I do is quarterly calls and an annual review, right? The quarterly calls are, I literally Google you and I look on Facebook to see what's new, and then I ask you about them. I do stalk you, right? So if I know Keegan posted on her story the other day, she was following a dump truck home, right? So if Keegan was in my sphere, I'd be like, hey, how's that landscaping project going? I was just thinking about you, and I was just curious. Send me a photo if you got it. I'd love to see what you're doing to that house. Bonus, because it's about her house, right? So that's kind of a win. But nevertheless, that would be one of those quarterly calls. I'm not looking for anything. I'm not saying, oh, by the way, the finest compliment I can receive is your referral. Puke on me, right? I'm just making a deposit because I care about you. And then the annual review, just like your financial advisor, then I'm going to show up to your door and I'm going to say, hey, and usually this is on the anniversary of their purchase, depending upon the time of year and when I have capacity. It would be, hey, Christine, I know it's been a year. Happy house anniversary. I'd love a chance to send you a new valuation. Would you want to sit down and talk through? Do you want me just to send you a report? What would be most meaningful to you, right? And giving them the chance to kind of decide what would be in that space. So these are good. So the rule of thumb here, you front load the contact while their interest is really high, and then you taper off to more of a sustainable, non-irritatable rhythm, right? You don't want to hit them so frequently. But you never want to go fully silent. If you go fully silent, you're a secret agent, and then a different yard sign is going to go in there. So here's the deal. 2026, we need to work on automating that first 5 minutes. The good news is once that lead hits Bay, which I'll talk about because it's our primary, you have the immediate opportunity to send to send an email out and immediately get them. You also would get the notification on your text on your phone, so you can hit them. There are other options within Bay to set up an auto texting feature as well. So if that's something that you would like to have the system auto text your clients from in Bay, we can set you up with that. I don't remember the pricing on that. It's a little bit more. Katie, do you recall what that is?
I don't know.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We'll figure it out if anybody's interested. It's totally fine. But basically, you want to get to the point where it's going 24/7, right? So a lead never sits. 24/7 converts, which is good. At the multiples. Sorry, an agent running a 24/7 converts higher than a 9 to 5 response rate or traditional business hours, right? Cadence that pauses, right? So the 2026 generation of follow-up tools stops blasting the moment a human responds. Sorry. So like you could, what I call war dialing, right? You probably heard me say that until they respond to you, like you were going to text them and you were going to call them and you were going to email them and you were just going to hound them until they actually pick up the phone. Then we stop the blast and then we qualify them into a nurture category, right? Because they're going to give you context. They're going to help you understand, right? One thing that you want to note here, again, if you follow the follow-up rule, I would do no more than 12 robotic or automated responses. And that's in that war dial piece when you're trying to get there as quick as you can. I wouldn't do any more than 12. Usually that's probably 2 days worth. And at that point, it's just not going to do anything traditionally. I could be wrong, but then I would move them to a nurture category. Okay, so then get found. So this is some of those things, right? So it's some AEO stuff. So buyers ask, who's the best agent in Alec? Who's the best agent in Park Rapids? Plain English, question answering content is one of the new top funnel things. So this AEO piece we'll be talking a little bit more about in the coming months. This will be part of our Q3 and Q4 trainings, by the way, when we have a little bit more time to dial into it. It's some of the AEO just because we know everybody's really busy right now. So there's that. So a couple things you can do starting Monday, right? Pick your speed to lead promise. Decide your maximum response time for hot leads. 5 minutes during the day, and then let back at you do the auto responding in the after hours. Turn on one action plan. Just build out one, right? Create a single plan that's specific to you and your business model, and stop relying on memory for that. We have videos in the training library on how to do this. I'm sure we will send one of those back out when we send the recap. And then see if you can't reawaken 10 past clients. Like if you haven't touched them, just get them. Send out a little bit, and I got some touch points inside of the playbook there. And remember, mind that gap. That repeat business gap is real. Take control of it. You don't need to be braver. You're okay. You're going to do great. You just need a system that makes the right follow-up easy. Okay. So what I want to show you next is just a very brief summary of this. This is the follow-up engine you're going to get, not that. I'm going to slide you this over here. Okay. So this is the follow-up playbook that I'm going to send the 8 of you, okay? And so what I'm going to give you here is a couple of things. So we're going to start with some of the words. I'm just going to remind you of the 2 laws. We're going to walk through the funnel, okay? A reminder of the 3 to 5 active sources, a couple of the stats underneath the gold mine stuff, and then I'm going to walk you through 5 follow-up plans right here, okay? So here's what it's going to look like. So plan A, inside of the relationship, assuming that they're warm, okay? I'm going to tell you about what their mindset is and what yours is. Here's the cadence, here's the channel, here's the move, and here's exactly what to say. Okay? I'm going to give you a couple more, and then boom, here's the stranger at speed. Think of a portal lead or something coming through. Here's the cadence, here's the channel, here's the move, and here's what to say. So I'm going to give this to you as a way for you to take and build on what you think you need for your business in order to get going. So I literally eliminated the headache from, other than me creating it in base so you could just easily attach it, which I could do. But here's the problem. If we as a company give you a follow-up plan, it is our follow-up plan. The only way for you to edit or modify it for your business is to copy it and put it into your bay, right? So like, even if I gave it to you, you still wouldn't be able to modify it. You'd still would have to go create your own to tweak it as time goes on, which is why that's what I want you to do. I want you to create it so that you have one spot. You've already got it built. Now you can tweak it, and then it goes into effect actively on everything, and you don't have to go back through all of your contacts and reassign them to a new plan because you're modifying the plan that they're all attached to. Okay, so like I can hear that, and I'm just letting you know that's why we're not building it for you, because it's your business, and I want you to do the work. The decision maker, seller leads, right? Home valuation requests, right? Here it is. And then the last one, the patient play, geographic farming or long-term horizon. So really kind of built around temperature is more what it is, but I'm giving you full context, a full cadence, some scripts, and all the fun stuff to do. I'm giving you the phrase bank that we went over as well. And then I'm going to give you some automation stuff here too, so that you can, whoa, hey-o, let's not do that. We're going to build over some templates inside of there. There's your Monday 3. And here's a little tracker for you just so that you can get it into play. So that's going to show up in your inbox in a few minutes just so you can have it. And actually, I think I can put it in the chat for you to download too. So I'll throw it in the chat here really quick too, just so you can pull it down. With that, let's talk to me about questions, comments. What do you thoughts? Is this what you were hoping for? Did this say, that's great, I need something different? Brandon, you completely missed the mark. Like, how can I help? How can I help you in your business move forward? Or I crushed it. Okay.
I
Thanks,
know
Joy.
that I've talked to a handful of you guys about lead follow-up. Now is your time to ask all the questions. Where's your struggle?
Doing it.
Okay.
I mean, I can get a Nerf gun and shoot you every day until you get it done.
You might need to, if I'm fully honest. It's the vein of my existence. It's fine.
So what's stopping you?
The mindset for sure. I feel like I'm irritating people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I share that you're not, and I give you all the reasons why you're not, does that do anything for you, or does it not change?
It does. You'll probably have to remind me in like 3 months from now, because it'll wear off at some point, and then you have to remind me, and then it'll be good for another few months.
Okay. Well, we can do that. Yep. All right. Who else?
When you see someone the sun in the yard, you're like,
isn't it the worst?
That is a wake-up call right there. That should be more than a wake-up call. That's your sign of you're not following through enough. I mean, but this year has been crazy where I've talked to a couple people and they've called just exactly what you're talking about. Showed them something else, and then she came back and bought something. So it's just, I don't know. Sources come from, there's all sorts of sources. You never know where it's going to come from, but if you work at it, you should know.
Or so we hope anyway, but. All right, you guys. Well, it's 10:02. I want to honor your time. Obviously, you can always give me a call. You can always text. I know Katie feels the same way. Christine's a great resource because people really like Christine way more than they like me. So she probably has magic words to give you. But we're here to help. If there is a follow-up from this that you are interested in or you would like to know more about, please just let us know. Literally, these trainings get built out because you say something to us, and they go on a list with Katie, and then as they bubble up to the top, that's kind of what decides our next training. So if there's something from this that sparked an idea like, well, hey, what about this? Great, just let me know. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. Otherwise, we will let you go. I wish you guys have a great day. And as always, let's go impact some lives. Love you guys.
Thank you.